Disrespectful tourists scream and laughs. Police tell them to stop screaming. It was a peaceful place, where cobblestone roads twisted gently between small, cozy houses, and the smell of fresh bread from the local bakery filled the air. People walked slowly, greeting each other with friendly nods, and children played happily in the town square. For anyone living here, it was the kind of morning that promised calm and contentment. Into this serene scene came a group of tourists, their laughter and chatter echoing down the streets. Among them was Alex, a tall, energetic man with a loud voice and a personality that demanded attention. He seemed excited by everything he saw, but in a way that was bigger than life itself. Alex carried a camera around his neck, snapping pictures of everything. The cobblestones, the market stalls, the flowers spilling out of window boxes, and even the stray cats that wandered the alleys. He laughed constantly, sometimes for no reason at all, and his voice carried across the street like a small bell. His friends followed, a mix of curiosity and amusement on their faces. Unlike Alex, they were quieter, taking in the sights and sounds of Willowbrook with gentle smiles. They watched him as he ran ahead to look at a fountain, then turned to wave them forward with exaggerated gestures. His laughter grew louder, bouncing off the walls of the shops and cafes that lined the streets. Some locals paused in surprise, glancing at Alex as if trying to figure out whether he was part of a performance. Alex's excitement seemed endless. Every shop window he passed became a stage for his antics. He pointed at a display of handmade pottery and shouted, "Look at this! Isn't it amazing?" His voice startled a few customers, who turned with curious expressions, unsure whether to be amused or annoyed. Then he ran to the next shop, waving his arms wildly, laughing so loudly that birds fluttered from the rooftops. The town's charm, so carefully preserved for generations, now seemed to vibrate with the energy of this single man. His friends exchanged quiet glances. "He really doesn't know how loud he is," one whispered, but Alex didn't hear them, too busy spinning around in the square like a child. Local shopkeepers began to notice. In front of a small cafe, Mrs. Thompson wiped her hands on her apron and frowned. She was used to tourists who walked respectfully, smiled politely, and then moved on. She had never experienced someone quite like Alex. Her customers were glancing around nervously, trying to enjoy their morning coffee, but Alex's laughter echoed too clearly. He picked up a small leaf from the ground, examined it dramatically, and then tossed it into the fountain where it floated gently before sinking. "Look at that, the magic of nature," he shouted, leaning back to laugh at his own joke. A young boy watching nearby paused mid-play, looking confused and a little frightened by the noise. His mother quickly pulled him closer, whispering, "It's okay, darling, just ignore him." But it was difficult to ignore Alex. Even the town's stray cats seemed unsettled, darting under benches and behind trash bins as he ran past, laughing as if they were part of a game. Despite the disruption, Alex felt nothing but joy. To him, Willowbrook was a playground, each street corner a new adventure. He waved at passers-by, shouted greetings to people he didn't know, and took exaggerated steps as if he were in a musical. His friends tried to guide him gently. "Hey, maybe we should tone it down a little," one suggested. Alex laughed so hard he nearly dropped his camera. "Tone it down? Why, this is fun. Look at it. Look at everything." His voice carried so far that a woman arranging flowers outside her shop looked up, surprised and unsure whether to smile or frown. The tourists moved slowly toward the market, where the real heart of Willowbrook lay. Stalls overflowed with fresh fruits, vegetables, and handmade crafts. The smell of baked bread and sweet pastries was strong here, mingling with the soft perfume of flowers displayed in wicker baskets. Normally, the market was filled with the gentle hum of conversation and the occasional laughter of children. But as Alex entered, his own laughter became the loudest sound in the area. He picked up a basket of apples and shook it, causing the fruits to rattle and roll slightly. "These are magical apples," he exclaimed. "I bet they could give me superpowers." People around him chuckled politely or rolled their eyes, but some simply moved away, preferring to keep a distance. His friends apologized quietly to the vendors as Alex continued his antics, not noticing the growing irritation among the locals. One vendor, Mr. Clark, finally spoke up. "Sir, please keep your voice down. This is a peaceful market," he said, trying to maintain a friendly tone. Alex paused and looked at him with wide eyes, then laughed louder than ever. "Down? Why would I want to do that? Look at all this. Isn't it amazing?" His excitement was infectious but also overwhelming. People who had come to enjoy the morning quietly now felt that their space had been invaded. Despite the chaos, not everyone was upset. A few young children followed Alex, giggling at his energy and joining in his antics. He spun them around in the square, careful not to knock over any baskets or displays, and they laughed together. Some tourists passing through the town snapped pictures, thinking Alex was part of some planned performance. But for the residents of Willowbrook, it was becoming clear that his behavior was not ordinary. As the morning wore on, Alex continued to explore, climbing onto benches to get a better view, jumping over low fences, and shouting at pigeons as if they were old friends. His friends tried repeatedly to rein him in, suggesting quieter ways to enjoy the town. "Why don't we just take some photos from here?" one said. But Alex ignored them, too absorbed in his own excitement. From the edge of the square, a few locals watched in concern. They knew Willowbrook was popular with tourists, but they had never experienced such a disruption. The market's calm atmosphere, the soft chatter, and the gentle hum of daily life were all being drowned out by Alex's non-stop laughter. Children stopped their games, shopkeepers paused their work, and even the cats seemed to hide more carefully. By late morning, the group had reached the edge of the market, where a small fountain marked the center of the town square. Alex jumped onto the fountain's edge, arms outstretched, spinning slowly as if he were the main character in a movie. "Look at me! Look at the town!" he shouted, his voice echoing off the buildings. Passers-by quickly stepped aside, some smiling nervously, others frowning in disapproval. His friends finally stepped closer, trying once more to calm him down. "Alex, please, people are starting to get annoyed. We should be careful," one said gently. Alex laughed again, but for the first time looked around at the faces of those he had disturbed. He noticed the frowns, the cautious glances, the way people were stepping back. Something shifted slightly in him, though only briefly. He waved at a passerby and shouted, "Relax. It's all in good fun." Despite his words, the reality was becoming harder to ignore. Willowbrook, normally a peaceful and orderly town, was now buzzing with the unintended chaos of a single tourist's excitement. The locals continued their daily routines as best they could, while Alex's friends exchanged worried glances. They realized that something needed to be done before things escalated further. For now, though, Alex remained oblivious to the impact of his actions. The town was his playground, and every street corner, shop, and market stall was part of his adventure. And while the locals tried to endure the morning, the stage was set for the next part of the story, where the consequences of his loud and disrespectful behavior would begin to appear. The tourists moved deeper into the heart of Willowbrook, leaving the quiet streets behind and stepping into a busier area, where the market opened into the main town square. The square was usually a place of gentle activity, locals selling fresh produce, bakers arranging pastries, and children running and laughing under the watchful eyes of their parents. Today, however, it was about to be filled with the loud energy of Alex. As soon as he entered the square, Alex's voice rang out like a bell. "Look at this place. It's incredible," he shouted, clapping his hands together with excitement. The sound startled a group of pigeons, which took flight in a sudden flurry, coasting above the square. People stopped in their tracks to watch. Some smiled politely, thinking he was just a cheerful tourist. Others frowned, annoyed by the noise and the sudden interruption to their peaceful morning. Alex didn't notice the growing tension. He was busy exploring, pointing at stalls and making exaggerated gestures. "Wow, look at all these fruits. They look amazing," he called out, leaning over a table of apples and oranges. When a few apples rolled slightly to the edge, he laughed loudly, as if the fruits themselves were playing a game with him. The vendors tried to ignore him, continuing their work, but his laughter echoed across the square and drew attention from everyone around. His friends followed, trying to gently guide him. "Maybe we should just pick one stall and look quietly," one said. Alex spun around to face them, his arms wide. "Quiet? Why would I do that? This is the best part. I want to see everything." His enthusiasm was infectious, but it was also overwhelming. Children stopped their games and looked toward him, unsure what to make of his loud voice. Parents quickly held their hands, guiding them closer to safety. Alex's antics continued. He leaned over a small fountain in the center of the square and splashed water onto his face, laughing as though he had just discovered a magical spring. "I feel amazing," he shouted. A few locals covered their ears and shook their heads. "Who does he think he is?" one whispered. Another muttered, "This is our town, he should show some respect." But Alex didn't hear them. He was too busy pointing at a flower stall, pretending to conduct a symphony with the blooms as his orchestra. Nearby, a group of elderly women were sitting on a bench, knitting and chatting. One of them, Mrs. Langley, sighed heavily. "I suppose tourists will be tourists," she said, her voice soft but tinged with frustration. She had lived in Willowbrook all her life and knew that the town's charm depended on its calm and order. Today, it seemed, that charm was being tested. At the next stall, Alex picked up a small basket of peaches and held them above his head like trophies. "Look at these. They are perfect," he shouted. The vendor, a kind man named Mr. Parker, tried to smile politely. "Please, sir, be careful with the fruit. Other customers are trying to shop." Alex laughed so loudly that Mr. Parker could barely finish his sentence. "Careful, I'm being careful. Look at me, master of the peaches." He twirled in place, and a few peaches wobbled dangerously before he caught them. His friends groaned quietly, exchanging worried looks. "He's going to get us in trouble," one whispered, but Alex was too excited to notice. He ran ahead to a stall selling handcrafted wooden toys and picked up a small wooden horse. He held it high, pretending it was a real horse, and galloped around the square. Children who had been watching curiously started to giggle. Some even joined in, pretending to ride invisible horses alongside him. For a moment the energy was playful, but it was still loud and chaotic. A local woman, Mrs. Owens, tried to intervene gently. "Young man, please, you are disturbing everyone." "Could you lower your voice?" she asked politely. Alex looked at her, grinning, and gave a dramatic bow. "Disturbing? No, no, I am sharing joy with everyone. Isn't this wonderful?" He laughed again, the sound echoing through the square. "Mrs. Owens shook her head and stepped back, her patience wearing thin. As the morning passed, the crowd began to shift. Tourists snapped pictures, amused by Alex's energy, while locals started leaving the square to avoid the noise. The market's usual calm, the gentle hum of conversation and the friendly atmosphere, had been replaced by a mix of laughter, shouting, and occasional whispers of annoyance. Even the town cats, who usually wandered freely, had found quiet hiding places under benches and behind market stalls. Alex continued exploring, moving from stall to stall with unrelenting energy. He picked up a bunch of grapes and pretended they were tiny balloons, tossing them into the air and catching them with exaggerated flair. "Look, magic grapes!" he shouted. A few children laughed, clapping their hands in delight. But the adults around him were growing increasingly impatient. Mr. Parker finally spoke up again. "Sir, you really need to calm down. You are making it difficult for others to shop." Alex paused for just a moment, looking around at the frowning faces. Then he shrugged and laughed. "I'm just having fun. Come on, everyone, smile a little." His words were cheerful, but the effect on the town was less than cheerful. Conversations had been interrupted, sales slowed down, and the atmosphere had become tense. His friends, who had been trying to stay polite, finally stepped closer. "Alex, please, just for a little while can we try to be quiet?" one said softly, but Alex didn't respond immediately. He was too busy pretending to be a knight with a broomstick he found at one of the craft stalls. "I am the protector of Willowbrook," he shouted, holding the broom high. "Fear not, citizens. I shall guard your town with laughter." His voice carried far and wide, causing several people to cover their ears and sigh. At that moment, a small child dropped her toy, startled by the noise. The mother quickly picked it up and moved toward a quieter corner. Some locals began exchanging looks, realizing that something needed to be done to restore peace. The market, normally a pleasant place for conversation and commerce, had been overtaken by a single visitor's loud enthusiasm. The mayor of Willowbrook, a calm and thoughtful man named Mr. Whitman, happened to be walking through the square. He had come to check on the morning market and was surprised to see Alex in the center of the commotion. He paused, watching for a moment, noting how the laughter and shouting had created a scene. Mr. Whitman wasn't angry. He was simply concerned for the well-being of the town and its residents. By mid-morning, the tension in the square was clear. While a few children were entertained by Alex's antics, most of the adults were visibly frustrated. Shopkeepers whispered to each other, and even some tourists who had been enjoying the town quietly began to look uncomfortable. The energy that Alex brought, while cheerful in intention, was overpowering the quiet rhythm of Willowbrook. Alex's friends tried once more to guide him. "Look, maybe we can just take pictures quietly for a while," one suggested. Alex laughed, ignoring their request. "Quiet pictures? That's boring. We have to feel the town, smell it, touch it, laugh with it." His excitement was impossible to contain. He ran to the edge of the square and waved his arms, calling out to passers-by to join his fun. The locals were beginning to realize that polite requests might not be enough. They had tolerated noisy tourists before, but never someone who seemed completely unaware of the effect his actions had on everyone around him. Shopkeepers moved their more delicate items out of reach, hoping to avoid accidents. Parents held their children closer. Even the usually relaxed street musicians stopped playing, unsure if their music could compete with Alex's booming laughter. Alex, oblivious to the growing frustration, continued his adventure. He climbed onto a low wall near the fountain, pretending to be a king addressing his kingdom. "People of Willowbrook, rejoice. Today is the day of laughter." His voice carried across the square, bouncing off the walls and filling every corner. Some people laughed nervously, unsure how to respond. Others simply turned away, hoping the disturbance would end soon. Despite all of this, Alex felt nothing but joy. To him, the world was a playground, and Willowbrook was the most magical place he had ever visited. Every shout, every laugh, every playful gesture was an expression of his excitement and wonder. His friends, however, were growing increasingly uneasy. They could see that the locals were losing patience, and they worried that the next step might involve someone in authority. By the time the sun was fully high in the sky, the square was buzzing with tension. Alex had explored every corner, interacted with vendors, and performed little skits for anyone who would watch. The market had lost some of its usual charm, replaced by a chaotic energy that Alex seemed to thrive on. His friends finally stopped trying to restrain him, realizing that the situation might need outside intervention before it could be resolved. In that moment, a police officer appeared at the edge of the square, watching the scene unfold. The officer's calm but firm presence immediately drew attention. For the first time that morning, Alex noticed someone who seemed serious. He stopped, laughing softly, and waved at the officer. "Hello there, want to join the fun?" The stage was now set for the next part of the story, where the authorities would step in, and Alex would begin to understand that even the most playful intentions can have consequences in a community that values peace and respect. The police officer stepped into the town square. With measured calm, his presence immediately noticeable. He was a tall man with a friendly but firm demeanor, wearing a neat uniform that reflected his authority. His eyes scanned the square, taking in the chaos that had grown since the morning. Tourists wandered among the stalls, children laughed nervously, and vendors tried to continue their work despite the loud disturbances. And in the center of it all was Alex, still performing little antics, oblivious to the rising tension. "Sir," the officer called out in a clear, calm voice. Alex stopped mid-spin, a mischievous grin on his face. He waved his arms in greeting. "Hello, want to join my performance? It's fun," he shouted, his laughter echoing across the square. The officer took a few steps closer, his expression patient but serious. He didn't smile or wave back. Instead, he simply said, "Excuse me, sir. You need to lower your voice. You are disturbing the people around you." Alex blinked at the officer, a brief moment of surprise crossing his face. Then, as if the officer's words were a joke, he laughed loudly. "Lower my voice, but I'm having fun. The town is amazing. Look at it." His voice boomed across the square, causing a few pigeons to flutter into the air. Some of the vendors muttered under their breath, hoping that the officer would intervene more firmly. The officer remained calm, taking a careful step forward. "I understand that you are excited, but you need to be respectful. This is a quiet town, and your loud behavior is making it difficult for others to enjoy their morning. Please keep your voice down." For a moment, Alex looked around the square. He noticed the frowns, the crossed arms, and the uneasy glances. Even some of the tourists who had been amused earlier now looked concerned. The energy in the square had shifted. Alex laughed again, though it was a softer laugh this time, and waved his hand dismissively. "Oh, come on, it's just a little fun. No one is hurt. Relax." The officer, still calm, shook his head slightly. "It is not just about being hurt, it is about respect. People live here. They are working, shopping, and enjoying their morning. Your noise is disrupting that. Please, I am asking you to stop shouting." Alex paused, finally sensing the seriousness in the officer's tone. His friends exchanged relieved glances, hoping this would finally make him understand. "See, Alex, maybe just for a few minutes we can calm down," one whispered. Alex nodded slowly, still holding the small wooden horse from earlier, but he couldn't help a small smile. His enthusiasm was hard to contain, even in the face of authority. A few nearby vendors whispered to each other, clearly relieved that the situation was being addressed. "About time," one said. "He's been at it all morning. Some of our customers were getting upset." Others nodded, grateful that the officer was handling it patiently. The officer continued, speaking in a measured tone. "I want to make this clear. If you continue to shout and disturb the people here, there could be consequences. I would prefer not to have to enforce any rules, but I will if necessary. Can you promise me that you will keep your voice down?" Alex looked around again, noticing the seriousness on the officer's face, and the way the crowd had begun to quiet down, watching the interaction. He realized, perhaps for the first time, that his behavior had gone too far. Okay, I understand," he said, holding up his hands. "I'll try to be quieter." His friend sighed with relief, giving him encouraging smiles. Even as Alex spoke, he couldn't help but fidget and move around. He picked up a small scarf from a nearby stall and twirled it between his fingers. "I'm sorry if I was too loud," he added, softer this time. The officer nodded, satisfied for the moment, and stepped back slightly to give Alex space. The crowd began to relax, the vendors returning to their work, and the children slowly resuming their play. The energy in the square shifted from chaos to cautious calm. Alex's friends guided him toward a quieter corner of the market. "See, it's much better this way," one whispered. Alex nodded, though he still had a spark of excitement in his eyes. The officer remained nearby, observing carefully. He didn't want to interrupt Alex's experience entirely, but he needed to ensure the town returned to its peaceful rhythm. He watched as Alex picked up a small bunch of grapes from one of the stalls, examining them carefully without shouting or causing disruption. Slowly, Alex began to understand the balance between excitement and respect. As the morning wore on, the officer spoke with a few of the vendors, ensuring they felt safe and that their day could continue without further interruption. He nodded politely at some of the tourists, who now looked more relaxed, grateful that the situation was under control. Alex's friends thanked the officer quietly, happy that their companion's behavior had been addressed without any harsh confrontation. Meanwhile, Alex explored the quieter parts of the market, taking pictures and enjoying the sights in a more subdued way. He still laughed occasionally, but now he noticed the faces of the people around him and adjusted his behavior. He realized that fun didn't need to be loud to be enjoyable. A small smile appeared on his face as he watched a child feed a pigeon, and then laughed softly with the child, blending in with the peaceful rhythm of the town. The officer, satisfied that the situation had calmed, moved a few steps away but kept a watchful eye. He knew that teaching respect often required patience and calm guidance rather than immediate confrontation. Alex, unknowingly, was learning an important lesson about observing and adjusting to the environment around him. As the tourists continued to walk through the square, Alex noticed more details about Willowbrook than he had in the morning. The intricate patterns in the brickwork of the streets, the subtle aroma of baked goods, and the smiles of locals enjoying their day. All of these details were now more noticeable because he had slowed down. He laughed quietly to himself, realizing that there was a lot to enjoy without shouting or disturbing others. A few minutes later, Alex stopped near a small fountain, watching the water ripple gently. He took a deep breath and whispered to his friends, "I think I get it now. You can have fun and still be respectful." His friends smiled, pleased that the lesson had finally begun to sink in. The energy in the square felt lighter and happier, and Alex's presence was now more harmonious with the town's peaceful atmosphere. The officer watched this interaction from a distance and nodded to himself. He knew that guiding tourists required patience, and sometimes a firm but calm approach was the most effective way to teach respect. By intervening early, he had prevented a potential escalation, allowing everyone to enjoy the rest of their morning without conflict. Meanwhile, Alex explored the market stalls with renewed curiosity and focus. He asked the vendors questions politely, examined handmade crafts, and even helped a child who had dropped a small toy. The laughter and joy were still present, but they were now quieter, kinder, and more considerate. Locals began to smile again, noticing the change in his behavior. A few even waved politely, acknowledging his effort to be respectful. The morning continued in this quieter, more harmonious manner. Alex's friends guided him gently, making sure he remained aware of the people around him. The officer occasionally glanced toward the square, satisfied that the lesson had been effective. Alex, for his part, seemed to have discovered a new way to enjoy the town, one that allowed him to express his excitement without overwhelming those around him. By late morning, the market was bustling again, but in a calm and orderly way. Locals resumed their work, children played happily, and tourists strolled through the stalls with smiles on their faces. Alex walked through the square, taking in the sights and sounds with a new appreciation. He still laughed and smiled, but now he was mindful of his volume and actions, blending in with the peaceful rhythm of the town rather than dominating it. In this moment, Alex learned an important lesson about awareness, respect, and the impact of one's behavior on a community. The experience had been a challenge, but with guidance and patience, he had begun to understand that fun could coexist with consideration for others. His friends were proud of him, and even the locals, once frustrated, now saw that he could adapt and enjoy the town in harmony. The officer finally left the square, confident that Alex's behavior was now under control. He had helped maintain the peace without creating conflict, allowing everyone to enjoy their day. Alex waved politely as the officer walked away, a gesture of gratitude and respect. As the tourists continued their exploration, the town of Willowbrook returned to its peaceful rhythm. The lesson learned that morning would stay with Alex, a reminder that excitement and joy were best shared when tempered with awareness and consideration for others. And as he walked through the square, taking in the sights quietly, he realized that he could enjoy the beauty of the town fully, without needing to be loud or disruptive. After the morning incident in the town square, Alex began to see Willowbrook in a different light. He had always enjoyed exploring new places, but today had been a lesson in patience, awareness, and respect. The quiet streets and cozy shops that had seemed like simple scenery before now felt alive, full of people with routines, feelings, and stories. For the first time that day, Alex felt the need to slow down and truly observe the town rather than just react to it. Walking alongside his friends, he noticed how carefully the market vendors arranged their goods. Each stall had a unique display: fresh vegetables stacked neatly, handmade crafts displayed with care, and baskets of colorful flowers that added a vibrant touch to the cobblestone streets. Before, Alex might have rushed past all of this, too focused on his own excitement to notice. But now he slowed his steps, paying attention to the little details: the glint of sunlight on a polished wooden toy, the gentle rustle of leaves in the nearby trees, and the soft conversations between locals. As they moved through the square, Alex's friends whispered quietly to each other, relieved to see the change in his behavior. "Finally," one said, "he's beginning to understand." They guided him gently, making suggestions about what to look at or photograph, and Alex followed without complaint. His laughter was softer now, more natural and in tune with the town around him. The chaotic energy that had dominated the morning had transformed into a lively curiosity that didn't disturb anyone. Alex paused at a bakery, attracted by the smell of fresh bread and pastries. He peered through the window, his eyes wide with wonder. The baker noticed him and smiled. "Good morning," she said warmly. Alex returned the greeting politely, a small bow accompanying his words. "Good morning, everything looks amazing," he said softly, careful not to shout. The baker chuckled, appreciating his polite tone. Alex realized that being respectful didn't mean he couldn't express excitement. It just meant showing it in a way that others could enjoy too. Moving further down the street, Alex noticed a group of children playing near a fountain. They were tossing small pebbles into the water and laughing quietly. In the morning, he might have run into the middle of their game, startling them and causing confusion. Now, he observed from a distance, watching their joy without interfering. A little girl dropped her hat and Alex gently picked it up, returning it to her with a smile. "Here you go," he said softly. The girl thanked him and he felt a quiet satisfaction. Helping someone, even in a small way, felt as good as any loud adventure he had experienced that morning. As they continued walking, Alex noticed how the townspeople interacted with one another. Shopkeepers greeted each other with smiles and nods, friends chatted quietly on benches, and elderly residents shared stories in the shade of the trees. Everything seemed peaceful and harmonious, and Alex realized that his earlier loudness had disrupted this balance. A pang of guilt washed over him and he quietly whispered to his friends, "I didn't realize I was really disturbing everyone." One of his friends nodded. "It's okay. You didn't mean any harm, but now you see how important it is to be aware of your surroundings." Alex thought about the police officer's calm words from earlier. The officer hadn't yelled or scolded him. Instead, he had explained the problem and given Alex a chance to adjust his behavior. That approach had helped Alex understand better than any lecture could have. They reached a small park at the edge of the town, where a few benches were shaded by tall trees. Alex sat down with his friends, taking a moment to rest and reflect. The park was quiet, except for the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft chirping of birds. He looked around and noticed the harmony of the place, the way the sunlight filtered through the branches, the careful way people walked along the paths, and the smiles of those enjoying a calm morning. He realized that his loudness earlier had overshadowed this peace, and he felt determined to do better. Alex's friends spoke softly among themselves, planning the rest of the day. They wanted to see the historical museum, the Riverwalk, and a few famous shops. Alex listened, nodding, but he also took time to notice things on his own. He saw an elderly man feeding birds near the fountain, a young couple taking pictures together, and a child drawing with chalk on the pavement. Each moment seemed more meaningful now, because he was watching quietly instead of shouting. As they walked toward the museum, Alex tried to balance his curiosity with respect for the townspeople. He asked questions politely to the locals he passed, learning about the history of Willowbrook and the traditions that shaped the town. His friends noticed that people were more willing to talk to him now because he was calm and considerate. Alex realized that being respectful allowed him to connect with the town in ways he couldn't before. He laughed quietly at interesting stories, smiled at charming details, and even took a few photos, capturing moments without disturbing anyone. At the museum, Alex was fascinated by the exhibits. Historical artifacts, old photographs, and local artwork told the story of Willowbrook in a way he had never imagined. He read the descriptions carefully, sometimes asking questions quietly to the museum staff. He learned about the town's founding, the traditions of its residents, and the importance of preserving its charm. Each piece of information added depth to his understanding, and he began to appreciate the value of observing and listening rather than being loud and disruptive. After leaving the museum, Alex and his friends wandered along the Riverwalk. The water sparkled under the sunlight, reflecting the charming buildings and trees along the banks. Ducks swam peacefully, and a few people were sitting on benches, reading or simply enjoying the scenery. Alex walked slowly, careful not to startle anyone. He felt a sense of calm wash over him, realizing that Willowbrook's beauty was not just in its sights but in its quiet, everyday life. At one point, Alex noticed a small boy struggling to skip stones across the river. The boy's concentration was intense, but his stones kept sinking. Alex knelt nearby and quietly offered a tip. "Try holding the stone like this," he whispered, showing the boy a new technique. The boy tried again and successfully skipped the stone twice. He looked up at Alex with a big smile. "Thank you," he said softly. Alex felt a warm glow of satisfaction. Helping someone quietly without drawing attention felt rewarding in a way that shouting never had. As the day continued, Alex began to notice small acts of kindness in the town. A vendor helped an elderly customer reach for a jar of jam, a child gave their friend a flower, and a group of neighbors shared a quiet laugh over a playful story. Alex realized that respect and consideration were part of the town's charm, and he wanted to be a part of that, not disrupt it. He started thinking about how he could enjoy himself while still contributing to the peaceful atmosphere. By mid-afternoon, Alex's friends suggested they visit a small cafe known for its homemade pastries. Alex agreed, walking calmly alongside them. Inside the cafe, the smell of fresh coffee and sweet treats filled the air. He greeted the staff politely and found a table near the window. While waiting for their order, he watched the world outside, the river, the people walking slowly, and the gentle rhythm of the town. He realized that this calm observation brought him more joy than shouting or performing ever had. Over pastries and tea, Alex reflected on the events of the morning. "I didn't understand before," he said quietly to his friends. "I thought having fun meant being loud and getting attention, but now I see that you can have just as much fun, maybe even more, by being aware and respectful." His friends nodded, happy to hear him say this. "Exactly," one said. "It's about enjoying the experience without taking away from others' enjoyment." After leaving the cafe, Alex and his friends wandered back toward the town square, where the day had begun. This time the square felt different. It was alive but calm and harmonious. Vendors were busy with customers, children played quietly, and the townspeople moved about with smiles and greetings. Alex walked slowly, noticing the details he had missed before, the textures of the cobblestones, the patterns on the shop signs, and the cheerful flowers spilling from window boxes. As they passed the fountain, Alex paused to watch the water ripple gently. He remembered how he had jumped onto the edge earlier in the day, laughing loudly and disturbing everyone. He felt a quiet sense of growth, realizing how much he had learned in just a few hours. Respect, awareness, and consideration for others were not limitations. They were ways to enhance the experience, making it richer and more meaningful. The rest of the afternoon passed pleasantly. Alex explored shops quietly, took photos respectfully, and even helped a few visitors find their way when they looked lost. His friends watched with satisfaction, seeing how much he had grown from the morning's chaos. Locals who had noticed him earlier now smiled politely, acknowledging his change in behavior. By the time the sun began to set, casting a warm, golden glow over Willowbrook, Alex felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The town had shown him that fun and excitement did not need to be loud or disruptive. He had learned to observe, to respect, and to enjoy the experience fully, in harmony with the people around him. It was a lesson he would carry with him forever. As they left the square, Alex looked back one last time. The town felt alive, peaceful, and welcoming. He smiled quietly, grateful for the lessons learned, and walked alongside his friends with a newfound sense of maturity. Willowbrook had taught him that respect and joy could coexist, and that even the most exciting adventures were better when shared thoughtfully. As the afternoon gradually turned to evening, Willowbrook seemed to settle into a warm, golden calm. The town streets, once echoing with the earlier chaos, were now filled with soft laughter, friendly chatter, and the gentle rhythm of daily life. Alex and his friends walked through the square, taking their time to enjoy the serene atmosphere. Unlike the loud, chaotic energy of the morning, now every sound seemed harmonious, every movement measured and graceful. Alex felt a deep sense of satisfaction, as if he were finally seeing Willowbrook through the eyes of someone who truly belonged in the moment. The group decided to take one last walk along the Riverwalk before leaving the town for the evening. The sunlight reflected on the gently flowing water, casting sparkling patterns that danced along the cobblestones. Ducks glided smoothly across the surface, and families strolled quietly along the path. Alex's friends walked beside him, speaking softly, while Alex himself noticed every detail: the shimmer of the water, the gentle sway of the trees, and the peaceful smiles on the faces of people enjoying their day. Alex felt a sense of reflection come over him. He remembered the morning when he had run through the streets, shouting and laughing without consideration for those around him. The memory brought a small blush to his cheeks and a soft, embarrassed laugh. He realized how different things had been then, and how much he had learned in just one day. Respecting the people and the rhythm of the town had allowed him to enjoy the experience even more deeply than before. Along the river, a small girl was trying to feed some ducks with pieces of bread. One of the ducks had wandered too far, and she struggled to reach it. Alex quietly approached and held out a piece of bread toward the duck, helping it swim closer to her. "Here you go," he said softly, and the girl's eyes lit up. "Thank you," she exclaimed, and Alex smiled quietly. It was a small gesture, but it filled him with a sense of connection and responsibility, something he hadn't experienced in the morning's chaos. His friends noticed the change in him. "You're really different now," one said. "It's like you finally understand what this place is all about." Alex nodded, taking in the peaceful surroundings. "I think I do," he said quietly. "I realized that enjoying a place isn't just about being excited or loud. It's about seeing it, feeling it, and being part of it without disturbing it. Fun doesn't need to be chaos." The group continued down the riverwalk, passing small bridges and flowering gardens. Local musicians played soft melodies on acoustic guitars nearby, and the music mingled beautifully with the sound of the water and the gentle laughter of families. Alex paused for a moment, closing his eyes and breathing deeply. The scents of flowers, fresh water, and baked goods from nearby cafes filled the air, creating a perfect harmony. He felt calm, content, and surprisingly happy in a way that didn't require shouting or exaggerated antics. They reached a small park near the end of the riverwalk. Benches were scattered beneath tall oak trees, and families sat quietly, enjoying snacks or reading books. Alex and his friends decided to sit for a while. As they rested, Alex looked around and noticed the small details he had missed earlier. The way the sunlight flickered through the leaves, the patterns of ripples in the water, and the delicate conversations of people passing by. Each small observation gave him a sense of appreciation he hadn't felt before. A couple of local children approached him, curious about the camera he carried. They asked politely if he could take their picture, and Alex knelt down, smiling gently. "Of course," he said softly, adjusting the camera to frame them with the fountain and flowers behind them. He clicked the photo and showed it to them, receiving shy but happy smiles in return. For the first time that day, Alex realized that he could be playful, energetic, and fun while still being considerate and respectful. As they walked back toward the town square, Alex noticed shopkeepers beginning to close their stalls, carefully arranging their items and waving goodbye to the remaining customers. He felt a pang of gratitude for their patience and hospitality. He walked up to a vendor he had passed several times during the day, a woman selling handmade scarves, and said politely, "Thank you for letting me enjoy your town. I'm sorry if I was too loud this morning." The woman smiled warmly. "Thank you for saying that. I could see you were learning. Enjoy the rest of your visit." Alex nodded, feeling a genuine sense of connection and respect. In the square, the fountain shimmered under the late afternoon sun, and Alex watched the water ripple gently. He thought about the morning, about the police officer who had intervened calmly, and the vendors, children, and townspeople who had all been affected by his loudness. He realized that even small actions could have a big impact on others, and that being aware of the space around him allowed him to experience joy in a more meaningful way. As the evening approached, the group stopped at a small cafe near the fountain for one last snack. Alex ordered tea and a pastry, carefully speaking in a quiet, polite voice. While waiting, he watched the town around him, the children playing quietly, couples walking hand in hand, and locals laughing softly as they talked. He noticed how each person contributed to the calm harmony of the place, and he felt proud that he had learned to participate without disrupting it. His friends spoke quietly, reflecting on the day. "It was a good lesson," one said. "You really grew from the morning to now," Alex nodded. "I know," he said. "I've learned that excitement and joy don't need to be loud. You can enjoy a place fully while respecting others, and it feels even better that way." They smiled at each other, realizing that the day had been an adventure not just in exploring a new town, but in personal growth and understanding. After finishing their tea, they took a slow walk back through the streets of Willowbrook. The golden light of the setting sun illuminated the cobblestones, creating long shadows and a warm glow. Alex noticed the details in every building, the weathered doors, the colorful shutters, and the carefully maintained gardens. He appreciated the charm of the town even more now, seeing it through eyes that had learned patience and awareness. As they approached the edge of town, Alex stopped and looked back at the square. He remembered the chaos of the morning, the laughter, shouting, and disruptions, and compared it to the calm, peaceful square before him now. The contrast was striking, and he felt a quiet sense of growth. He realized that respect, observation, and awareness had not taken away from his fun. In fact, they had enhanced it, allowing him to see and enjoy things he had missed before. Before leaving, Alex turned to his friends. "Thank you for helping me see this," he said softly. "I think I understand now how to enjoy a place without disturbing it. It feels really good." His friends smiled, feeling proud of him. "That's what travel is about," one said. "It's about learning, seeing, and experiencing, while being considerate." Alex nodded, knowing he would carry this lesson with him forever. As the tourists walked toward their hotel, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange and pink glow over the town. The streets, now quiet, seemed to reflect the growth that had happened that day. Alex felt a sense of contentment and maturity, realizing that the most meaningful adventures were not always the loudest or most chaotic, but the ones that allowed him to connect with the place and people around him. Before leaving, Alex paused one last time at the fountain. He knelt down and gently touched the water, watching the ripples spread outward. It reminded him of the impact he could have on the town and its people. Small actions could create waves that touched many. He smiled quietly, feeling grateful for the day's experiences, the lessons he had learned, and the peaceful harmony he had discovered. As they continued their walk, the evening air was cool and refreshing. The streets were lined with soft lantern lights, creating a warm glow. Locals waved politely to passing tourists, and Alex returned their waves with a calm, genuine smile. He realized that respect, awareness, and kindness were not just rules. They were ways to make every experience richer, deeper, and more enjoyable. By the time they reached their hotel, Alex felt a sense of completion. The day had started with chaos and misunderstanding, but had ended with reflection, growth, and a newfound appreciation for the town of Willowbrook. He had learned to balance excitement with respect, laughter with consideration, and energy with awareness. It was a lesson that would stay with him for the rest of his travels and beyond. As Alex lay in bed that night, he thought about the morning, the police officer's calm intervention, the townspeople, the children, and his own friends. He smiled quietly, feeling a sense of pride and maturity. He realized that travel was not just about seeing new places, but about learning how to be part of them respectfully. Willowbrook had taught him that lesson beautifully, and he knew he would carry it in his heart forever. Even in the quiet of his room, he felt a sense of joy, not the loud, chaotic joy of the morning, but a calm, lasting happiness that came from understanding, growth, and connection. It was the perfect ending to a day full of adventure, excitement, and important life lessons.